Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. Today, we want to talk about a couple of different things on the line, including one breakout potential player on the offensive line for the 2021 season, which I'm really excited to talk about because you have a couple really cool players in mind who could take that big step and really solidify the tackle position specifically for the Giants for a long time. And, we have had so many problems trying to solve this offensive tackle position. I'm tired of it. You're tired of it. Let's finally get this solidified. Dave Gettleman promised us this years ago. We want it to be fulfilled. We want him to really come together and make sure that this promise does not go unfulfilled for the most part. And I think that we have a couple players who could be the solutions long term. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Nkeal Harry, a player who wants out of the Patriots organization. They didn't give him an opportunity. Would he be a fit for the Giants? There's not much to talk about right now, so we'll just discuss that for momentarily for you guys and kind of give our takes on, Nkeal Harry, how he might fit, why he probably won't fit. And we'll get to that a little bit later, Anthony. But before we dive into the good stuff, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk about both of these topics. I think that these are going to be some underrated topics. Discussing the offensive line is always going to be an important subject as Giants fans entering 2021. You look at the state of the team, a lot of upgrades on offense. Defense is phenomenal, but that offensive line is going to be a huge question mark going forward. Of course, I think the two biggest questions going into the season, will Daniel Jones have his breakout third season? But the other biggest question is, will the offensive line allow Daniel Jones to have his breakout third season? So that's going to be really important. I think it's definitely a good topic to discuss in terms of the offensive tackles or any offensive lineman that we think can take a jump this year, especially considering how young this group is and how crucial this group developing is for Daniel Jones' development, of course. And then Nkeal Harry, I think that's another interesting topic. This trade request seems like something that was just bound to happen at this point. I thought he already requested a trade a couple months ago, but I guess it was just rumored that he might. Well, he officially did now, and so I think it's going to be interesting to see where exactly he winds up and if he potentially winds up with the New York Giants, why that might be, and why he could or could not be a good fit with us.
Yeah, there's reason to believe he could be a good fit for, which we'll talk about in a second. But I want to dive into the offensive line first and foremost, because this is a unit that we all know they need to take a step forward. Otherwise, Daniel Jones will once again be running for his life. We already did a turnover review for Daniel Jones. A lot of fault goes on DJ, but I can't disregard the absolute absence of protection in the trenches as well. The offensive tackles were overwhelmed routinely, especially at left tackle and right tackle. Cam, we know Cam Fleming was his turnstile. Andrew Thomas had ankle injury he dealt with the entire season. He got surgery immediately after it ended. And, of course, the lack of experience, COVID, injuries, the whole lot really hit the Giants smack in the mouth. And it really was hard for them to come back. Once they started out poorly, it's hard. They didn't have a preseason, so they were using the first couple of weeks. And you're not just getting used to the game the first couple of weeks, right? That's what the preseason is for, to get your body into shape. Remember what it's like to take a hit. Remember what it's like to be on a football field, executing legitimate plays in motion, in time, in real time, and trying to get things to cooperate. And what I will say is, the Giants didn't have that, and they had 3 rookies starting at some points in the season on the offensive line. I'd even throw Nick Gates in there as a rookie because the guy never played center before in his life. So you have 4 rookies playing on your offensive line, one of them who's a third-round pick, one of them is a first-round pick, the other one was undrafted. And I think for the most part, you have Shane Lemieux as well as a fifth-rounder. So this offensive line, just a lack of experience across the board. Now, a year of experience, I'm expecting them to take a step forward, a big one at that, especially at the tackle spots. And for me, I think Matt Parrott could be the guy that really makes that jump. And I think Anthony's in the same boat as I am. I know he is, because he's a big Matt Parrott enthusiastic. So I really think Matt Parrott, with the way he's worked this offseason, he's gone from about 300 pounds to now he's almost at 320 pounds. The guy is a mammoth of a human being. He is huge. His muscles make the Mount Everest cry and weep in its corner. So I think for the most part, he's like the mountain, from Game of Thrones, if you're a Game of Thrones fan. The guy's like the mountain. And having him at right tackle is really, really optimistic for me, because I think that he can be a lockdown right tackle for the future. And we already know what he can do in the run game, right? He did very well in the first half of the season. He didn't allow a sack during his reps until the second half of the year, when he had already gotten COVID. And we know how that impacted some players. Look at Myles Garrett, for example. Some of these guys, some of them are even with inhalers now. It impacted them so poorly. So when you're looking at it, he really was impacted. He had stamina issues, strength issues because of it. Now he's 100% healthy, as far as we know, and he's added a lot of muscle mass. He's a big guy. He is going to be Saquon Barkley's best friend in the running game. He is going to carve lanes for him on those C gaps, on those B gaps, really going even out wide on pitch plays and sweeps. He's going to be a tremendous asset for Saquon and Daniel Jones in the running game. And that's really what I'm most excited to see about him. If the Giants want to be that running football team and targeting balls downfield, I think they're going to need Matt Peart to be that run blocker first and foremost. If he can be an average pass blocker, he's a home run. He's a home run pick as a third rounder in 2020, right? That's how I personally see it. Above average run blocker, I think he will be. Average pass blocker was where I think he'll land, at least next season, and I am 100% fine with that. You know what I mean? 100% fine with that, Anthony. What are you thinking about Matt Peart and really what he can bring to this team? And, how optimistic are you in him? And I think he can be that future right tackle for us.
Yeah, long-term viewers of this channel and listeners of this podcast know that I've been kind of the leader of the Joe Judge fan club, of course, but also kind of the Matt Peart fan club as well. Even before the 2020 NFL draft, I was a huge Matt Peart fan. Coming out of UConn, I watched his film. That offseason, I did a lot of film breakdowns on offensive linemen, did a lot of film studies on offensive linemen, even if I didn't do breakdown videos. And Matt Peart was one that just stood out to me. I was sitting in my room during the COVID quarantine, just watching offensive line film constantly. My friends were like, dude, come on, let's play some Xbox. I'm like, no, hold on, I have to watch more Matt Peart film. I was obsessed with watching this guy play football. He has these long arms. Like, his arms are just so long. He's got this ginormous wingspan. He's got really quick feet. These were all the things that I noticed in college that I even saw translate into the NFL. The quick feet. I think that he is a really solid pass protector. I was actually surprised how great of a run blocker he was at the next level. I thought that would be where he might struggle. I thought the pass protection was going to be where his strong suit was, and he was a good pass protector, but an even better run blocker this past season, as Alex mentioned. And there was a lot to like from his rookie season. Of course, he only played 150 snaps, so we do have to temper our expectations here. But at the time, I had him at number 99 in my mock drafts to the Giants. I said, if they get him there, that will be a huge steal because he is way better than that number 99 value. They got him at number 99. I literally posted a mock draft hours before the draft, and that was my pick there. So I was really excited to see that. I was like over the moon when they actually picked him. I was like, that's my guy, and now he's on the Giants. Can't believe that actually happened, and now here we are 1 year later, and we're talking about, let's see if this guy can be our long-term starter. To me, the answer is abso-freaking-lutely. I already think that he can be. I thought that he could be before he was even drafted by the Giants. So now that we're in position to see him take over the starting right tackle job, I'm just so excited to see it finally happen. I've been waiting for this since last year, and now we get to see it happen. I did say at the beginning of last year, again, those long-term listeners and viewers, you might remember me saying Matt Peart probably shouldn't start at all in his rookie season just because he was at UConn and he was facing way less competition compared to what he's going to face at the NFL level. But his technique was really solid in college. He's got extremely long arms, so it shouldn't take too long for him to get acclimated to the pro game and then turn into a pretty good professional player himself. So year 2, I want to see him starting day 1. I know that Nate Solder is back. I disregard that personally. I think that he should be the swing tackle, or he should be cut so that the Giants can save $4.5 million in cap space in the second half of this offseason. So personally, I'm all for Matt Peart starting day 1 at right tackle. Of course, not handing him the job. Everyone's got to compete. I know Alex loves to remind me of that, but Matt Peart, I think that he will win the starting right tackle job. Love what I saw from him on film in that 150 snaps. I understand that COVID really put a damper on his season as he struggled to recover from that fully, but also I do remember a tweet from Jordan Rannon earlier this offseason. Can't remember exactly when he tweeted it, but he did say Matt Parrott was going to start the second half of the year. He was supposed to, but he was actually playing injured. He had some sort of nagging injury that kept him off the field. The Giants never really put it on the injury report. It was kind of kept on the wraps, but that did happen. Matt Parrott was supposed to start those games over Cam Fleming, but whether it was due to COVID mishaps, or if it was an actual injury, I don't really know. Jordan Rannon didn't really clarify, but he was supposed to start and wasn't able to. So that tells me the Giants coaching staff has enough confidence in him. They're already impressed by the way that he played last year, and he should absolutely win the starting job this year, and I can't wait because I think that he has the potential to be the best offensive lineman on this team.
Now that's an optimistic. I would say that's even maybe a hot take, but at this point, can it be a hot take if there really is no established guys there yet? Anyone could get that right now. It's like really up for grabs, and Andrew Thomas is another one that really could take that jump forward, just as Matt Peart. If our tackles really go from 0 to 100 in one offseason, we're going to see this offense take a leap forward that we would never have imagined, right? We all know it depends on the offensive line. We know what Daniel Jones can do when he's at the top of his game. We know he can throw the ball accurately. We know he can run. He can throw on the move. He's a good player when he's playing well. Now, if the offensive line gives him time to play well, you're going to see him maximize those weapons. Kadarius Toney, Saquon, Kenny Golladay, they can really open up the playbook. I don't even think we fully saw Jason Garrett's playbook last year, personally. I think we saw probably a mere sliver of what he had really on paper because he just didn't have time to really get the ball, get his receivers downfield. There was one, situation I remember. I forget exactly what they were playing, but the Giants, running 3 receivers to the sticks. I think someone actually posted it on Twitter and asked me if this was the offensive line fault or Daniel Jones' fault. Essentially, it was a 10-yard stick route. All 3 guys ran straight and sat down at the first down marker. By the time that they got there, 10 yards away, mind you, 10 yards. By the time that they got there, Daniel Jones was already on his ass. You know what I mean? Like, that happened frequently last year. Maybe he didn't fumble or throw an interception every time, but it happened a lot on third downs. And I think for the Giants, we now need this offensive line to step forward. It's really mind-blowing to me they didn't add more resources to it this offseason, but I will say this. I think they must be pretty damn confident that they're going to take that big leap forward, and Andrew Thomas, being one of those integral pieces to the puzzle, is capable of doing so. We know what he was like at Georgia, right? We know that he was a power blocker, very good in the run game. He was a stand-up, strong guy with great hands in pass blocking. He didn't lose very, very many snaps at Georgia. And then he came here. Mark Colombo changed his technique, apparently. Things got a little murky. Of course, all the other factors I listed before had their fair share of the impact. But I will say this. Rob Sale is a great coach. The guys love him already. Coming from Louisiana, he was their offensive coordinator. He was their, I think he was their head coach too. Maybe just offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach. So those 2 things. And I will say, he's a Joe Judge guy, right? Everyone that Joe Judge has hired for the most part has seemingly panned out. And I think that I trust Joe Judge with his evaluation of coaching. And they also brought in Pat Flaherty to help this offensive line too in a consultant role. So for the most part, this group finally has a strong foundation of coaches to lead them into the future. They have experience. They have the whole offseason. They have preseason, an extra game this year, week 17. So I'm really excited to see how they can maximize all of this newfound time. And, Anthony, what is the impact of Andrew Thomas and Matt Peart being good players this upcoming season? How does this impact the offense, specifically Daniel Jones?
Well, the Giants haven't had consistent offensive tackle play in a very long time. You think back to throughout Eli Manning's career, even there was a revolving door at those offensive tackle positions in some seasons. And then, of course, we remember the Eric Flowers trials. That was just a horrible era to live through as a Giants fan. I mean, the team was horrible then, and Eric Flowers was just pitiful to watch play football. But now we are moving on to greener pastures, of course, or maybe bluer pastures if you want to have a pun in there for the New York Giants' sake. Andrew Thomas being the new left tackle, 4th overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. I think there's a potential there for him to be one of the better offensive tackles in the NFL. I thought that he was definitely a solid prospect in the 2020 NFL draft process. I didn't think he was necessarily worthy of the 4th overall pick, but I do think that since the Giants had such a great need for an offensive tackle, the need and talent met, and it was a justifiable pick. And I know he struggled a lot in his rookie season, but there were a lot of peaks and a lot of valleys. And towards the second half of the year, we really saw him improve his game exponentially and saw him really turn into a much better player, much better pass protector, especially knowing that he played injured, knowing what he was going through behind the scenes, and that he had to get ankle surgery towards the end of the year to clean all that up. I do think that now, 2021, healthy Andrew Thomas is going to be a much different animal, going to help improve this offense drastically, and then having him combined with a great player like Matt Peart, if both of those dudes pan out, then you're talking about having both sides of Daniel Jones protected on the edge, which is always extremely important, but you're also talking about open things up for Saquon Barkley on those, outside rushing plays, outside zone, going through the C gap, going around the offensive tackle, those plays are now going to become a lot more crucial and a much larger part of the offense, because last year, I mean, it was constantly just run up the middle, run between the guards, run right behind the center. That was Jason Garrett's whole playbook. We rarely saw the runs go outside, but I do think this year, with better offensive tackle play, we could potentially see that take a greater influence on this offensive playbook, and hopefully see Saquon Barkley return to form now that he's got a hopefully much improved offensive line in front of him.
Agreed. I think Daniel Jones, we all know the success for the future relies on this offensive front being adequate. And I want to move on to the next segment. We'll talk about it for a couple minutes because it's probably unlikely. And it's Nkeal Harry of the Patriots. He wants out. He has requested a trade. And why would this make sense for the Giants, right? The only way I can possibly fathom this, I know some people have brought it up, and I want to address it. So the only way this makes sense for the Giants is they see Nkeal Harry as a big possession vertical threat. And that is what he is. He's a big possession vertical threat who hasn't gotten a lot of reps because clearly he is not that good. Otherwise, he would have been getting more reps, especially with the Patriots team who lacked receivers last year. Keep that in mind. They didn't really have that many receivers, and they still didn't use him. So what I will say is this, Nkeal Harry is a big possession vertical threat, similar to Kenny Golladay. Maybe having him develop behind Kenny and really offer a backup reserve role so they really don't miss a beat in case, he goes down. Now the entire offense changes. They don't have that big threat, that big presence, that big body presence. They can put Nkeal Harry there and just smooth things over if Kelvin Benjamin doesn't end up staying with the Giants. So that's the only way I can see this happening. Maybe sending the Patriots a 7th rounder for him and just having him kind of learn behind Kenny, offer a, just backup reserve guy. Kenny Golladay has had a fair share of injury history in the past. So if he does miss any time, knock on wood, they have someone who can fill that role and they can move forward without missing a beat. That's the only way I can justify this. Now, the other part of this is he wants more reps, and he's not going to get that with the Giants, right? The Giants are not going to offer him starting opportunity right now. He wants to go to a team that's going to give him maybe even 30, 40%. He's not going to get that with Big Blue. There's no chance unless multiple injuries occur. And again, knock on wood. So Anthony, when you're looking at Nkeal Harry, how probable is this? I would probably say less than 10% chance.
I'm actually going to say the probability of it happening is a little bit higher than you might expect due to this one connection. Of course, Nkeal Harry, New England Patriots. Joe Judge, formerly a member of the New England Patriots, former special teams coach, but also former wide receivers coach, and I believe he was the wide receivers coach when they drafted him in the first round, and I'm sure that he had some input going into that draft selection. So I wouldn't be totally shocked to see the Giants make this move, low risk, high reward kind of thing, but personally, I don't want to see them make this move because I don't see there being a high reward even with the low risk. I don't see it to be worth it. I was never really a fan of Nkeal Harry coming out of college even. I thought that he was that quintessential wide receiver who dominates in college but will not succeed in the NFL because his skill set is not translatable. Nkeal Harry's skill set in college was purely contested catches. Jump over guys, never separate but just make contested catches, and a lot of manufactured yards after the catch, right? Screen plays where he was able to make yards after the catch, not really catching it and then making the yards himself, but more off of designed yak plays. So Nkeal Harry's skill set, I never saw to be completely translatable to the pro game, and I think so far that's exactly what we've seen. I believe he had 33 receptions, 300-something yards, and 2 touchdowns in his in this past season. Was never able to establish himself as a focal point in an offense that has a severe lack of wide receiver talent. So now that we have a team that doesn't have a lack of wide receiver talent, we have almost more wide receiver talent than we know what to do with at this point. I don't see how he could have any impact on this offense or why he would think that he could get any starting reps with a team like the New York Giants. Just personally, I'm not a fan of his game, and I understand the similarities between, big body wide receiver, possession receiver, and Nkeal Harry, and then, of course, Kenny Golladay being a big body wide receiver, possession receiver, of course. But the difference between the two is Kenny Golladay actually can separate, especially going vertically. He does run good routes and he does get open. Nkeal Harry is just never open. I believe Pro Football Focus, he was ranked 99th out of 100 qualifiers in terms of separation rate. The dude's just never open, and you can't win in the NFL level if you can't get open as a wide receiver. You're not going to do it all based on contested catches, despite having such a huge body and a wide frame. It's just not translatable. So I don't want to see Nkeal Harry get traded for by the Giants. I do think that there is some small likelihood that happens due to the Joe Judge connection. But personally, just not a move that I would make. I wouldn't even waste a draft pick acquiring him. I just think they could be better served elsewhere. We have other holes on this roster that we could fill in more creative ways with those draft picks that we would be trading for Nkeal Harry. And that's going to be my stance on it. But I would love to hear anybody who has a disagreement in the comment section argue their case, and I'm open to listening.
Yeah, I mean, look, he had 58% of snaps last year. I think he had 55 targets, something around that, or 57 targets. He's not going to get much more than 60% of snaps. You know what I mean? What team is going to give him that opportunity? I think he was hoping that Tom Brady would be throwing him the football and giving him some good opportunities, but it's Cam Newton, and Cam Newton's a lot different of a quarterback, ranging from accuracy to touch of the football. He throws absolute guns. Like, he's a freaking missile launcher. So maybe Nkeal Harry is just not good suited for the Cam Newton era in New England. So finding another home might be a benefit for him, depending on where that is. I don't really know. I can't think of any teams off the top of my head that severely lack wide receiver talent. The Giants did. Maybe they should have traded for him last year. But at this point in the season, or the offseason, we have so much talent. Adding another guy to compete, I'd rather give that opportunity to a guy like David Sills, right? So we have some guys already on the roster that I'd rather give opportunities to than Nkeal Harry. I'm going to pass on this one based on what we have, based on all the allocation of resources we made, Kadarius Toney and whatnot. So that's it for this episode, my friends, talking about the offensive line, some breakout candidates for this upcoming season, and Nkeal Harry. Anthony over here with his Judge's Gavel just filmed a Tony's Take episode, so check that out if you're a member. If you want to check that out before it drops, join our membership program. You can get exclusive level content, and when the season starts, we'll be doing a lot more of that, my friends. So I'm really excited for the fun to start in a couple of weeks here. But I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. Make sure to subscribe below on YouTube. Notifications on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube as well. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.